Standridge is the creator and presenter of this module, and the module is titled Team Participation. Cameron spent a lot of time talking to one of our professors who works here at Fresno State to really identify what it truly means to be a team player, and he included some content that's going to be really useful for you to share with your students. So he spends time talking about what is an ideal team player, and he's got a diagram that shows what, a schematic of what an ideal team player is and what an ideal team player is not. So you're going to enjoy that, and you're going to enjoy being able to share that with your students. The other part of his presentation that I found very helpful was how to identify dysfunction within a team and possibly some of the things that you could do to help your students, collaborate and cooperate together a little bit better. He spends a whole, section of this module talking about the career development events that FFA members can participate in and how very valuable it is that they not only spend time in competition, but they also spend time in team practice, because students practicing together at their home chapter is every bit as valuable and sometimes more valuable than the actual competition when it comes to team participation. And he also talks about project teams. In other words, times that your students are going to participate in team settings, but not necessarily in the sense of preparing for a competition. And he does a wonderful job connecting team participation to career success too, because we all know that once students enter the work world, they're going to be collaborating and working in a team, environment a lot. So the chapter spotlight for this module is with the Tulare FFA chapter. And they interview Mr. Medeiros, who's the ag advisor there, and he talks about what it's like to build a team, coach a team, and try to build team dynamics within your students. He also provides advice for other teachers that are thinking about coaching teams, which I think you'll find really helpful. Also included in this module is an interview with the student, and the student talks about why they enjoy career development events, what they've learned, and how they can apply what they've learned to their future careers. So, in summing up team participation, giving your students those opportunities to work collaboratively with other members and to build social competence is a huge, huge thing for them, and it helps prepare them, again, for their future careers.
Module 4, Team Participation. Guiding us on our module today will be these 4 module objectives. And they kind of help chunk this presentation into 3 areas. First, we're going to identify the soft skills associated with team participation and flesh out those career-ready practices and soft skills. Then we're going to move on to areas 2 and 3, where we're going to describe some team structure philosophy and how we can apply that to the different FFA teams that we work with students on, as well as define the term social loafing and how that we can teach students not to engage in that practice. Then area number 4, which will be our third and final area, is just to describe different categories or events, activities that students can participate in as part of a team participation and help build those soft skills. So jumping right into it, we have our ACRES 21 philosophy on team participation. It is our mindset that by students working productively in teams, such as career development events, this will give students an opportunity to gain competence in communicating clearly, effectively, and with reason. So as we see to the right, we have students probably working on some sort of forestry team, and they're having to communicate effectively to each other, as well as using agricultural knowledge to emphasize their reasoning on why they think they should do something a certain way as a team to achieve those goals. And it is through these activities that we want to encourage the soft skill development so that way they can emphasize those skills when they're one day practicing in their career. Looking at the standards associated with team participation as an activity, we have on the left-hand side is our career-ready practices. We really believe that by students engaging as teams that they're going to learn how to communicate clearly, effectively, and with reason. In addition, by working as a team, they'll be able to work productively as a team and integrating those cultural and global competencies that are really emphasized within a career situation. On the right-hand side, we have social competence, which is the soft skill of the day. And we're going to be referencing this soft skill often. So just to kind of define it or conceptualize this soft skill a little bit, it is the personal confidence or self-perceived ability that a student will have in engaging in social interactions. So this isn't truly just, okay, is a student an introvert or extrovert, but are they able to engage with other individuals clearly, effectively, and in a way that's productive to the work environment? So transitioning a little bit, we're going to talk about some team philosophies that could be introduced with your students. Beginning this team philosophy or ideology is the ideal team player. For this ideology and the next one that were both developed by Patrick Lencioni, there's a lot of information to dive into here. However, if you look on our resources tab for ACRES 21, there are a couple of PowerPoint slides as well as some reference material to explain these ideas a little bit deeper if they really interest you and you want to work with your team on them. Jumping a little bit more into the ideal team player, it is the ideology that the ideal team player is humble, hungry, and smart. As we can see, this Venn diagram really breaks down what those mean in terms of the ideal team player. So if you can imagine even yourself working in a team, or as you've seen examples of students working with a team, there's some definite um, personalities or virtues that pop up as they work together. Sometimes students are very hungry or ambitious, and this can um, turn into kind of the bulldozer. They're going to try and achieve what they want, whether they have anybody else's help, and they're going to bulldoze over their team members. Or if a student is very, very humble in their interaction with the team, they can kind of serve as that doormat or a person that the hungry individual walks all over. Kind of switching gears, we know that students aren't just one of these virtues. Sometimes they overlap with many virtues. So if we look at if a student is very intelligent and smart in the way they're interacting with the team, but they're also very hungry, but they're missing that humble aspect, they can be considered the skillful politician of the group, meaning that they're kind of like only in it for themselves and not truly advocating for the team, but they're being sometimes deceitful in their actions. Again, we can dive in more into these ideal team player virtues, but the greatest thing to emphasize with your students is that each of these areas can be developed, and they're different for the different teams that they work on. Sometimes we act more humble or ambitious or smart in different areas, but we can all work harder and strive to meet that middle of the Venn diagram of the ideal team player. I encourage you to allow students to assess themselves of where they fall in these categories. In our resources, there is a self-assessment that students could fill out. And this could benefit the student as they could realize for themselves where they fall rather than you dictating to the student, oh, you're way too ambitious, or you're the skillful politician of the group, I need you to change. Once students have assessed themselves and kind of see where they are and where growth can happen, I encourage you as the mentor, advisor, guidance of the group to encourage students constantly to get better at being that ideal team player and help them move more towards the middle. Students will respond to this encouragement and want to, become more humble or become more ambitious. If students are kind of discouraged by this encouragement, um, be creative in ways that you can allow them to still be a part of the team and truly understand what it is to be a team player. Moving on to kind of our second team ideology is 5 dysfunctions of a team. Now, this hierarchy, this pyramid really has a lot to dive into. So I really encourage you to check out the PowerPoint presentation in our resources that goes along with the 5 dysfunctions of a team if this really interests you. The basic overview of this 5 dysfunctions is that teams often go through many areas of conflict or places where they kind of stall or plateau in their um, ability to get things done. And it's a kind of hierarchy, meaning that we have to kind of start with the base or number one before we can get up to number five and solving those issues. And the main idea with the five dysfunctions of a team that I would like advisors to take away is that number one, teams have to be built on trust. So you can see our number one there is the absence of trust. When that absence of trust is there, there are many roadblocks that are presented within the team. So it is of the team's benefit to encourage vulnerability and the ability to trust one another in the activities that we are doing. And as you solve dysfunctions starting from the bottom, you'll be able to move on to other dysfunctions and solve those as well. So without a collective group trust, we can't begin to tackle the different conflicts that might be arising within our group. And once we get over the fear of conflict in number two, then we can start working on, okay, how much, in what way are we committed to each other as a group, and ensuing that commitment to achieve our goals, and etc. I would probably see that when you're working with adolescents and students on team building, you're probably going to stay within that one, two, and three areas of trust, conflict, and commitment when you're helping them build a better team. So I would encourage you to look more into those categories and really think about um, ways in which we can encourage those areas of growth within our students. And moving on to our last ideology of team participation is social loafing. I identified that first within our objectives, and now I'm going to talk about it a little bit more. Social loafing is an area we've seen a lot, and I'm sure each of you may have experienced this yourself when you were a team member or have witnessed a lot of students engaging in it. But it's mostly when students or individuals tend to express less effort or work when there's more team members on a team. So I love this Minions meme because it shows teamwork actually in a nutshell, or really social loafing in a nutshell. One team member is working really, really hard, and the other ones are social loafing or on the back burner just engaging with each other. We want to discourage this type of activity, and listed here are some ways that you can diminish social loafing in your students' team participation efforts. A big part of decreasing social loafing is identifying contributions of each of the individuals and having either members or yourself evaluate those contributions to see what is truly being effective. Furthermore, making sure that there are engaging and valuable tasks with team members to accomplish, so that way there are truly things to do. And lastly is encouraging buy-in. Buy-in can be really tough for teachers or advisors to relate to students of why they should be engaging as a team fully. And some ways to, encourage students to latch onto that team is to give them some input into decisions, or even having them set goals for themselves or for that team as a whole to set goals. And lastly, to establish clear roles when they're working as a team. So again, social loafing is when individuals express less effort when they're working as a team rather than individually. And there are some ways to identify and tackle that social loafing in your students' participation as a team. We're going to switch gears a little bit and get away from the philosophy and the team building and talk about some of the activities that students could be doing and their value as they engage in them within the FFA. One of the most often and probably thought about when you think about FFA teams is CDE competitions. So when students go to these competitions, at the end of the day, they win as a team, as you can see with that floral team in the picture there in the middle. However, it can be a little bit odd to think about them as a team when they compete so individually. There are some team participation activities in some CDEs, especially on the national level, but most of the time, in the picture on the left, a person is going to be judging a horse individually and then achieving their scores individually. However, if we kind of broaden our minds and think about it, initially in our career ready practices, we had communicate clearly, effectively, and with reason. So many times students give their reasonings on classes or have to communicate to an individual or a judge what they know about the agricultural industry that they're competing in. And that is a big part of that career ready practice. But to work in teams, at the end of the day, a student knows that as I'm working, I am responsible for, doing the best for my team, and I'm committed to them, and I trust in each of the individuals to tackle that, you know, job ahead of us and receiving those blue ribbons as those girls there in the middle with the Floriculture team. And as advisors know, CDE competitions take up probably, truly 10% of our time, when really 90% of the time is team practice of those CDE competitions. And I think this is an area where students' soft skills of team participation, like social competence, really shine. On the left, we have students probably in a vet science competition, demonstrating their practicums or working together as a team to build their knowledge. As they're communicating with each other or even teaching each other, they're learning those soft skills of social competence, of this is how I positively and collaboratively and effectively communicate with my team members so that way as a team we're all successful. And these team practice and soft skill development can take place throughout a variety of competitions like Meet Science or Land Judging or Nursery Landscape. We've worked with AET to find a way where we can incorporate team practice into their record book so that way students can actually document in their record book some of those soft skills or team practice activities and teamwork that they truly are practicing, not just in competitions. As we move forward, here are some kind of atypical projects or teams that students can participate on when in the FFA, and they might be more specific to you and your program. So on the left there, we have Clovis FFA. They engage in school-based projects where they work as a team to grow a product, and then they go and sell it as a team to their local community. And there is definite team building exercises that go along with those activities. Some more atypical projects that or teams that students could work on are called project teams. This is kind of like an all-encompassing term to bring in school-based SAEs or show teams. Like on the left there, Clovis FFA, they work as a team, students work together for their SAE to grow veggies and different plants to sell at their kind of drive up farmers market. And that includes some social competence and critical team building experiences that resonate into career ready practices and that social competence. Furthermore, we can see, show teams, sometimes we have to work, or students have to work together to, take care of a barn together or show together in like a pen of five. And that takes some sort of team or collaborative aspect that will benefit them later on. Or even on the right here, students could engage in like a landscaping or SAE service where they provide a service, but they're working together on that project, and that would definitely be team participation in FFA. And moving on to classroom projects. So this is another way that teams can or students can interact in teams all the time, but we might not really think of truly as getting them ready for careers through this activity. But really, as students engage in classroom projects, it's kind of like working in a little micro team. So you might not be engaging in all of those ideal team player or five dysfunctions of a team so much because you only have a very short, small, quick goal, but they're still engaging in that social competence of, can I explain to my team member exactly what my idea is? Or can I explain to my team member, okay, here are my responsibilities and roles for the time being? And we should encourage these classroom projects because as students interact with each other more and build that dynamic, then they're preparing themselves to go work with anybody. And just being thrown into a team in the workplace is kind of common, and you have to work quickly and efficiently to get things done. So having students understand that, yes, we're do classroom projects, so you can, build a 3D model of DNA, yes, but also to work collaboratively and learn those social uh, career readiness skills. And just to wrap it all up together, um, there's so many different ways in FFA students can interact as teams. Like, in the middle here, we have a picture of an officer team. There's so many different ways that they build and grow and achieve together. And there are different ways that at your own chapter that might be some activities that we didn't describe already. The main thing to keep in mind is that when students are working as a team, it's getting them ready for that career aspect. So they can be a professional like Ryan Jacobson in the top right-hand corner. He leads the Fresno County Farm Bureau, and he does it well because he knows how to work collaboratively and effectively and communicate with that reason. Furthermore, we see other examples of, students at a four-year college, like on the left, on the left, we have the discussion meet team where they work together as a team to, compete and describe their knowledge of agriculture. And I guess my idea behind this is that as we are teaching students to work as a team, reminding them about that career aspect or that end goal of we're trying to build great team players in the work environment. And that is something that's marketable to employers and definitely what they're looking for as they're hiring. So it's definitely important to highlight that and remind students that's why we have team participation activities. Now we're going to do a chapter spotlight on Tulare FFA and some of the things that they do with their CDE teams to emphasize team participation throughout all their students.
Hi, I'm Bryce Nagel, and I go to Mission Oak. I'm a senior, and I am on multiple CDE teams, including Farm Power, Welding, Ag Banking, Cooperative Marketing, and Parley Procedure. My favorite part is making new memories and as well, just making new friends on the team and learning quite a bit of knowledge. Every single competition has something new that you didn't know, and so that would be like my favorite part is learning something new and just trying to figure out some of the skills to use for the next competition. Some of the skills that I've learned would be, like in say my welding team, it would be learning different routes and stuff to use when you're doing certain passes or certain types of material that you're working on. As well as some of the soft skills I've learned from some of my public speaking ones is just making sure that you're listening and you can memorize it and practice in a certain amount of time you need, as well as just take your time. That's what you need to do is take your time and just listen. Like working as a team, I would say, and like certain some of the teams, it's actually like works out really good for during practice and times, just because you have to overcome some of the questions. And as working as a team, you can then think about it once you come to the test and actual competition. You're thinking about what did this person say to me, and then you're like, okay, now I remember what this person said to me, and that way you can use it later on to the test. It's like, oh, I remembered what they said, and so this is the answer. And it's kind of just working as a team helps you memorize, as well as if someone's struggling in something else, you can help them, and it goes back to you, relates to you. If you're having trouble, they can come and help you. So working as a team on the teams is pretty good. Some of my career goals include going to college and getting a bachelor's degree, hopefully in mechanical engineering. I've applied to multiple schools and got accepted, so I'm just in between picking which ones to go to. But some of my career goals would be hopefully come back and maybe help our community with agriculture in general, or just to design something that can help in the future with mechanics or in vehicles.
My name is Mike Medeiros. I've been teaching for 21 years, first 7 years in Kingsburg High School, and I've been at Tulare High School for the last 14 years. The Tulare High School farm is unique, where we serve 3 high schools in the Tulare area: Mission Oak High School, Tulare Union High School, and Tulare Western High School. Well, I coach a variety of teams. I coach grapevine judging, grapevine pruning, cooperative marketing, ag banking, dairy products and dairy foods. And I've in the past, I've coached more than that: farm power, ag mechanics. Really been around the block on a lot of teams. And just over the years, I've kind of specialized back into where I'm mainly doing all the ag business and dairy foods CDEs. Well, I've been blessed to have several state champion teams, and just as important, almost all my teams have been in the top 5 at state finals. And so there can only be one state champion, but man, if you make it to the top 5, that's always important for students to get that sense of success, that feel like they were there and they at least competed. So to get students to pursue success, it can be challenging. One of the things that my master teacher, Joe DeGrazia out of Turlock, imparted on me is you build a culture with everything you're doing, whether it's your classroom, whether it's your CDE team. So I try to focus on culture and start to build those relationships. And some of that culture is, our practices are these days, this is a priority, our field days are this, we go as when they know that, I try to let them understand that when we come into practice, we get to work, we're working on skills, we want to know what we need to work on, we want to be prepared for Saturday, because most of the contests take place on Saturdays. And then there's also a time to have fun. So it's also a time for me to build a relationship with students. I can tell you that even with the state champions or the top 5 finishes, some of my best memories are the van rides with students to and from contests and what we discuss, and even just listening to students' thoughts about where they're going to go to college or what they want to do or what career they want to pursue, and even challenging them a little bit to make sure that they affirm what they want to do. So it's just building those relationships. There's a lot of fun comes out of that, and but yeah, you just build that culture of family, and it's almost a family within a family, because you got Tulare FFA and then you got the dairy products team, and then they know that before the contest or during practices we're focused on dairy products, but then during the award ceremony we're rooting for all the Tulare FFA family. So CDE teams benefit students in multiple ways. I mean, obviously you're teaching the skills, but what are the chances someone's going to judge grapevines? What are the chances someone's going to judge dairy products? I mean, at the end of the day, I always talk to my dairy products judges as, we're just putting milk in our mouth and spitting it into a trash can, and we learn how to evaluate when are they going to use that in life. But it's just those underlying skills of being focused on what they're doing. You got to learn patience, because it's always a hurry up and wait kind of game. Being on time, being part of a team, not only looking at what you're doing, but also understanding that we need to push everybody across the finish line as far as where we're going to place on Saturday, and it's got to be a team affair. So they got to work together. Critical thinking skills go into it. When you look at cooperative marketing, we get the problems that everybody hates are those last 5 problems on the test, and they're the practical application math problems. And as soon as students see, first time you tell students, okay, we got these word problems, and they see word problems and they bug out, and then they start reading them and they're like, oh, well, this makes sense. Yes, but they have to critically think, okay, what am I taking from my math classes that I've learned and apply it to this situation? And so that's a lot of that critical thinking goes in as to what is the answer, or where we're going with it.